Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
You're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the new generation took over the WWF. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
I'm not afraid of a lumberjack match, and I'll tell you why later.
Joe Gimateo.
I don't know about you guys, but I want Razor Ramon to be all over me.
Oh, man. I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history one episode of Raw at a time. But first, a quick shout out to our listeners in Ireland and New York. Thank you for being there. Thank you for downloading. We hope we entertain, and we hope you keep coming back. Second point of business before we get going. Ryan, are there going to be any Jobber of the Weeks in this episode?
There will be no Jobber of the Weeks, but only because every jobber that shows up tonight is a former winner.
Excellent. And therefore, we are winners all for having seen them.
That is correct.
All right. Well, in this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on July 10th, 1995. This Raw was recorded at the Danville High School in Danville, Pennsylvania, and features Vince McMahon and Jerry the King Lawler on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I am ready.
Mm-hmm.
All right, then let's get into it. For our intro here, Psycho Sid, the strongest offensive weapon in Ted DiBiase's $1 million arsenal. But some say when he faces someone who's his equal, he turns tail and runs for cover. And now we're going to recap the entire history of Sid and Diesel. It's amazing to hear how fast and succinctly Vince can repeat all of this information. This is what, guys? At least 2 months worth of information that he's cramming into this segment?
Oh, at least. And they also find a way to cram in every single bad power bomb in this little segment.
On a repeat.
Yeah, I noted it's nice to get the entire fucking recap of Sid versus Diesel.
Well, now at In Your House 2, there's going to be Diesel versus Sid in the lumberjack match. Sid doesn't care, though, and we'll find out later from Sid why that is. Such a tease. Welcome, everyone, to Monday Night Raw. Savio Vega is going to be in action tonight, as well as the Allied Powers. But before any of that happens, we're going to go into our first match of the night. The Roadie defeats Jerry Flynn by pinfall in 2 minutes and 38 seconds. The action here looks pretty good throughout the opening sequences. Both competitors are working well. The Roadie continues to impress me here. In some ways, he's visibly green, but for the most part, he works in the ring like he's a veteran. And then Jerry Flynn takes control. This is just another example of true professionalism in the ring here. The Roadie sells his heart out for Jerry. With Jerry Flynn in control, we go through a series of arm drag takedowns into an arm bar, but Roadie stands up out of it to give a little eye poke to break the hold. And here's where I had to stop and rewind it. Jerry Flynn works an arm lock into a standing sidekick. He wraps his goddamn leg around the Roadie's head. I popped my ass off here in my seat. The Roadie sells the shit out of this kick, acting punch drunk briefly before regaining control. And the work continues, up until the Roadie manages to reverse a leaping tackle into a power slam for the pin and the 3 count. Joe, please get us started on this match.
Well, I was really paying attention to Jerry Flynn in this match. I forgot that this was the martial arts guy until the match started. And was the crowd chanting Jerry during this match? I think that's what they were doing.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
You know, I'm not sure. It's possible.
They were chanting something, and I'm pretty sure they were chanting Jerry. I was like, holy shit, is this guy like, is he from Danville, PA or something? I guess That's just credit to the roadie just getting good heat, I guess. And Jerry Flynn being pretty good as a jobber. Even though there's no Jobber of the Week, my Jobber of the Week award goes to Jerry Flynn.
Yeah, the way this match started out, not just started out, but continued as well. I wish I could give Jobber of the Week to Jerry Flynn again. Because, like you said, Bartlett, Roadie did his job selling for Jerry Flynn. And when the Roadie was in control, he looked perfectly good as well. That sidekick that you mentioned that Flynn did where he just wrapped his leg around the Roadie's head. I mean, it just like that was a superstar level connection with that. And Vince refers to it as a great offensive maneuver. I had to mention that. But even the way they did the back and forth, the arm drags, I mean, just everything that they were doing out of this match was really high level. Right up to the finish, the way Flynn went up for that high-risk maneuver and the Roadie just catches him and slams him down for the pin. It was all around a fantastic match against a fantastic jobber.
Yeah, completely agreed with both of you guys here. Joe especially, man, you're absolutely right, because I have to be honest, I forgot that Jerry Flynn was already a Jobber of the Week, and whenever I was done watching this episode, I immediately assumed that he was going to be the Jobber of the Week just because of the sheer amazing performance he gives in this match. Legend says that there's a statue of Jerry Flynn left in Danville, Pennsylvania to this day.
Just to rack your memory, he's the guy that he's now retired, I believe in Florida. He teaches Taekwondo lessons because he has a black belt in Taekwondo. And he briefly was in MMA, but he did most of his work in WCW. He was there for a long time.
That's right.
And he had the storyline with Tank Abbott.
That's right.
That's the guy.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Yeah, just damn good match. Damn good match to start out this episode. We're going to move it along to the next segment. This is going to be Double J Jeff Jarrett visiting RP Lee, Buddy Lee's cousin. Now, this is a flashback to the time when Double J was first breaking into the WWF. And let me tell you, it was good shit, pal. And this is one of the first times that we got a glimpse of the man, that JEFFJARRETT. And holy shit, now we're going to go flashback to that time that Double J ran into Rip Taylor out in Vegas. Who wants to gamble? Although he doesn't say that in this particular clip, he did before. This was a great little flashback to segue us into a repeat of the Double J music video With My Baby Tonight with those slammin' background singers. Truly a tremendous performance by Double J. Let's ruin it now, though, with Lex Luger cutting a promo about how in the past it's always been 2-on-1, despite those times where it was 1-on-1 and Luger still fucking sucked. I feel so bad for the Bulldog, I have to reiterate it here again. Just briefly, guys, Joe first. What did you think about this little trip down memory lane with Double J and the Allied Powers promo?
I liked it. I have noted here that Jeff Jarrett is just so fucking Southern. Both him and his dad just have that accent that's just so Southern. I love it, which is perfect for this type of gimmick and what they're doing here. And of course, you guys know Rip Taylor is my favorite celebrity guest. And I fucking popped my ass off when I saw that. The music video, whatever. I guess we're just going to get that every week just to remind us, they're building that story.
They spent enough money on it.
Yeah. And Jim Johnston wrote the song, and I expect better from him. This song just really falls apart after the bridge. It's just when he does that fucking falsetto shit, and then they go, and then what happens after that, I don't know.
What are you talking about, man? They fired 3 secretaries to pay for that video. Show some fucking respect.
Ha ha. Fuck Lex Luger. I got nothing to say about him.
Yeah, talking about the Double J vignettes here, it was interesting because, like you said, it appeared that these were, videos, or at least from months and months ago when we first met him, but they seemed to be completely different segments than what we've seen before.
They were like a little longer, maybe.
Well,
I think.
especially the one with Rip Taylor, because the one with Rip Taylor, he didn't seem to be as with it as in this segment. Like this one, he seemed to really understand the Double J character a lot better than when we seen him months ago. So I don't know why they would have used that one instead of this one, but I thought that this Rip Taylor one, even though I enjoyed the last one, I thought this one was like 100 times better than the last one. And I thought it was really interesting, you know, as we'll progress through this episode, we'll find out there's not a ton of wrestling, but part of that is because right here is like a 15-minute chunk that we take up with Double J. And surprisingly, even though it's taking up a lot of time without wrestling, it was still pretty entertaining. Even with the repeat With My Baby Tonight video, Double J does a good job of not making this seem to drag too long. So I thought he did a good job with that.
Certainly more entertaining than a Dr. James Andrews 15-minute commercial.
Absolutely. And to touch on Lex Luger, I'm done.
No, thank you.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned that, Ryan, because it kind of solidified in my mind what I was thinking about it. I wasn't quite sure. I thought it was maybe just me about the whole Rip Taylor thing not being quite the same. But I distinctly remember the first time around, Rip Taylor was just kind of, well, I mean, he's out there in general, but he was a little bit out there, but he was playing along really well. And in this video with Rip Taylor, there were a couple times where he was kind of taking the piss out of old Double J there whenever they were standing there and saying, you know, what's the name of your album again?
Ain't I great?
Ain't I great in his own mind?
Yeah, right.
Saying shit like that. It was very entertaining.
Yeah, it was.
Although I don't know that I can really compare it to the other one, because every single Rip Taylor video that we get here is an absolute gem in and of its own right.
Yeah, special in its own way.
Yeah. Well, that unfortunate Mesomorph promo takes us to commercial, but then it's going to come back into our next match. Savio Vega defeats Mike Corey by pinfall in 1 minute and 46 seconds. But first, let's fuck with Barry Didensky. Vince says, "The king oozes royal, Razor oozes machismo, but what does Barry Didensky ooze?" Barry? And Barry's got what appears to be a Razor Ramon all-over shirt. And Barry lets slip that Razor isn't here tonight because he's getting ready for In Your House to take on Mabel. That was the first I recall hearing of that. Barry's going to spin around for us because this shirt is all over the place, as in it's all over the front and all over the back. Finally, the match gets started and the work begins. There's nothing really to scream about here yet towards the beginning, but both workers are putting in a good show for us. And here's where we get clarification. It's going to be a tag team match, King Mabel and Sir Mo versus Razor Ramon and Savio Vega at In Your House 2. Jerry Lawler makes an attempt to get some racist heat here, talking about burritos and refried beans. And then we get to the finish, and this is one of many, many instances where I wish somebody on commentary was paying attention to the match or knew what they were talking about, because Savio Vega pins Corey with some kind of crazy reverse crucifix. It was pretty cool to see, but commentary was too busy putting over Isaac Yankem whenever the 3 count happened. Ryan, please give us your thoughts on this match.
Yeah, I loved seeing it start with Barry Didensky pushing the Razor Ramon all-over shirt because it led into, this isn't going to be the first time I mention it tonight, Jerry Lawler getting back to the Jerry Lawler I like instead of him pushing this foot match. The way he just kind of busts Barry Didensky's balls here when they come back and makes fun of his face. And I got a chuckle out of it. Like they just felt like classic Jerry Lawler instead of annoying Jerry Lawler. But right after that, he kind of cracks some racist jokes. But I guess in the 90s, that was a easy way to draw heat. So what are you going to do? The match itself was fairly short, but like you said, it was kind of annoying they didn't pay attention to it a little bit more because it was good work. I mean, neither guy here did a bad job. Mike Corey, again, former Jobber of the Week, and what we've been seeing of Savio Vega the last few weeks or month or so has been really impressing me and I think most of us here. So pretty entertaining match. And the last thing I'm going to point out is, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but Mike Corey, the last time we saw him, he had on the same outfit, except it was a full like wrestling singlet. But this time it looked like he rolled down the top tank top part to just try and make it trunks. But you could see that he kind of tucked it in underneath. And because he did that, his singlet, it isn't made to be worn that way, so it doesn't have enough support around the waist. And there was probably 2 or 3 times where Corey had to pull his pants up from falling down. I got a good chuckle out of that. But overall, I thought it was another pretty entertaining jobber match that, was short, but did its job.
Yeah, I'll start with Barry fucking Dudensky. The merch peddling, like I've said in the past, I really enjoy it. I like seeing this stuff, but I'm not so sure I always like the placement of the merch peddling segment. I want to see the entrance. I want to see Savio's entrance and everything. I mean, we did get to see his, but sometimes I don't always like where they place it. Like last week we saw he was interrupting Sonny's promo in the ring but yeah, I enjoy it. The Razor Ramon shirt's pretty cool. Savio Vega. So Savio to me is a little hidden gem in 1995. I've been really impressed with him so far, these few months that we've seen him. I mean, if I'm in this crowd and I'm 12, 13 years old, I'd fucking pop as soon as I hear the music and see him coming out. He's got a lot of charisma and he really knows how to work a crowd. When he's giving those hard slaps to Mike Corey, he's working the crowd while he's doing it and really getting them into it.
His energy is amazing.
Yeah.
It's hard not to get into a match that he's involved in.
Yeah.
He's been used a lot as the opening match, and this is the type of guy I would want to have in an opening match for sure, just to get the crowd psyched up.
Yeah, I completely agree with both of you guys on that. Savio Vega has done nothing but impress me. And, I've mentioned before that I remember him from back in the day, but I didn't remember much about him. It's a hidden gem. It's energy. It's something that is lacking in a good amount of the rest of the roster here. I mean, just look back at King of the Ring. This dude has been a workhorse for us, the fans, carrying a good amount of the weight of the WWF the past couple weeks. And I really wish that he were better recognized for it. I mean, I know he has a fairly, or at least relatively long career here up through the late 90s, but I wish there were more talks about Savio Vega in shoot interviews and stuff like that, because I would genuinely love to learn more about him from the people that worked with him and entertained us with him, because just everything that I see, like you guys have said, he hasn't had a bad match yet, has he?
No, I mean, even his one against Mabel, he made.
Mabel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really a testament to what a bad gimmick could do to cripple someone. Because let's remember, this guy was Quang.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And go back to earlier episodes where we talked about Quang, and it's bad to watch because, one, that character, that gimmick that they handicapped him with completely took away all of his charisma. They put him in this mask and didn't allow him to talk. And he had to play up all of this spitting poison thing. And the gimmick just completely crippled a great wrestler. And look what we could have once you just get rid of the stupid gimmick and let him come out here and use his natural born given ability to wrestle and get the crowd into a match. And this is what we get.
Yeah, completely agreed. And also great point bringing up Quang. I've been trying to forget about it, but it really just, it socks at home how big of a difference shit like that can make. And especially if we just take it in the broader view, we've got a guy here wrestling under his name. Nice and simple. No extra shit. It's not like he's a retired fill in the blank that decided to become the world's greatest wrestler or what the fuck ever. It's just a guy with a name showing up and kicking ass. And it works. It works. He doesn't need to be a fucking garbage man or what the fuck ever.
Or master of martial arts.
Yeah. That's a whole nother thing. Like, the Caribbean legend, and I'm not as up on Styles as other fans might be, but I'm assuming whenever they made him Quang, they asked him to work in some kind of a martial arts gimmicked up style. Because, I mean, the way that he wrestled then looks nothing like the way he wrestles now.
No.
And it just makes me wonder if what he was doing is like the Caribbean interpretation of Japanese style, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, we've mentioned it with Mantar as well. Like, there's been times that he's okay looking as a power wrestler, but he has to keep on playing up this Mantar gimmick, so he gets crippled by it.
Yeah.
When you have hooves for feet, you have to.
Well, gentlemen, it's time to revisit the Special Olympics again. This was all just a pretty normal video package here, putting over the philanthropic nature of the WWF. They had various scenes from various things they were doing, you know, the typical thing, but I perked up a little bit when I saw that Miss USA Shanna Moakler was there, too. Do you guys remember her?
I don't remember her, but I saw Duke the Dumpsters, who got the honor.
Yeah.
Well, this was Shanna Moakler that was married to Blink-182's drummer and had a reality TV show. Although nobody at the WWF knew how to spell her name, however. So if you search her up by the spelling that they used in this promo, you get one wrestling blogger that clearly just copied the spelling from TV. And then
but you can't blame him.
And then 2 hits for porn videos, and that's it. Google.
How do those look?
Didn't click. They seemed a bit risky, but you literally get 3 results on Google.
Now, how does Duke the Dumpster look in those porn videos?
I'm here to take out the garbage, ma'am. You're not that good, though. It's great to highlight the courage it takes to compete in legitimate sport, but when we come back, it's Psycho Sid. We get a pretty cool in-your-house commercial here up until Man Mountain Rock and the Bushwhackers show up, and it just immediately gets lame.
Yeah.
We come back to Vince in the ring, and ladies and gentlemen, here's Sid. Of course, we're going to go to Ted DiBiase first, and he will do a decent enough job of putting over Sid here. But the real thing to pay attention to here is the ongoing death stare that Sid is giving Vince.
Yes!
Sid looks like he's ready to pull Vince's head off like a dandelion.
I had noted it's probably a shoot, too. Probably wants to kill it.
And here's where we get the official announcement. Ted DiBiase calls down his Lumberjacks for the upcoming Lumberjack match. And my God, it's a rogues gallery. We're talking IRS, Tonka, Henry Godwin, Jean-Pierre Lafitte, Jacob and Eli Blue, some guy with dreads and a sleeveless flannel shirt, Hunter Hearst
Helmsly. Our
Helmsley,
heel factory.
Mantar, Skip, Kama, the Gigolo Jimmy Del Rey, Mo, and King Mabel.
Surmo,
pardon me. Ted DiBiase names the guy with dreads and a flannel shirt, but I had to look it up to make sure that I got it right. And yes, it is Rad Radford, everybody. Who the hell is Rad Radford?
What a heel factory. Good Lord.
Well, when it's finally time for Sid to get on the mic, he kind of drops the ball here. He loses the opportunity to give us some more insanity. Instead, he just repeats those old chestnuts about being the master and the ruler of the world. Basically the same shit that Ted DiBiase just said. After a quick commercial break, we come back to a Barry Horowitz video package. Yesterday on the Action Zone, Barry Horowitz won his very first match ever over Skip. Sonny was livid in the ring, grabbing the microphone and yelling, "But that's Barry Horowitz!" What a way to get a guy over, having Sonny bitching his name out loud like that. Genius. Gave me goosebumps. Before we go any further, though, there is a lot to cover here. Ryan, what did you think about all of that other stuff and then Barry Horowitz getting his first fucking victory ever?
Sure. I'm going to start all the way back at the Special Olympics footage. I enjoyed seeing the guy parachute off the WWF blimp. That was,
yeah.
I mean, that was pretty neat. This video, though, yeah, it had everyone. Razor Ramon looked like he was helping raise sails on a sailboat.
Aldo was wearing his jockstrap.
Yeah, Savio Vega, Man o' War, and Dink were out there with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Dumpster with Miss USA. I mean, they had everyone there. And as the footage went on, like every big name at the WWF seemed to be there. So I know it was a publicity stunt out of them here, but way to go to like pretty much demand all of your big stars to be there. That commercial, the In Your House commercial, like you said, I thought it was really good. Yeah, MMR and Bushwhackers and Bob Backlund show up to kind of ruin it, but the production of this commercial I thought was really good. And I have to mention, this is the first commercial that we've seen since we've started doing this that I remember. Soon as this one came on, I immediately remembered that kid with the red hair. So first commercial, WWF commercial we've seen that I actually remember. When we see the whole gallery come down with Ted DiBiase, I mean, whatever. We get to see the whole list here. I don't know if that's going to be exciting. It's a lumberjack match. The Gigolo, Jimmy Del Rey.
Yeah.
We haven't seen the Heavenly Bodies in forever. I didn't even know they were still around.
I did read, it's not in my news, but I read that Tom Pritchard has some kind of an injury.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's why it's only Jimmy Del Rey as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that Pritchard is going to make it for In Your House, though. Just throwing that out there. I'm not 100%, but...
Well, that's good to hear, because those guys are entertaining to watch. Yeah, and then when Sid gets on, outside of it being a complete repeat of everything he's said before, I guess he screams it. He still looks like he's going to have an aneurysm in the middle of the ring, so he delivers it like a madman, but it was a repeat, so nothing too fantastic. But then, the Barry Horowitz first win. Oh, man. I said I felt that this was coming on and that I knew his first win was against Skip, but I wasn't sure when it was going to come up. I think it was just last week I said that it felt like Vince was kind of egging us on that it was coming with the way he was talking in the last Barry Horowitz match we watched. So to see Barry finally get his win, that was ecstatic. It's a shame we just saw highlights of it. We didn't get to see the whole match because we know Skip could do a hell of a job in there. And in the short highlights we did see looked to be pretty good. And Barry fucking Horowitz got his first win. I mean, smile from ear to ear on me.
I won't recap everything here, but the commercial was just very, very 90s to me. It's just one of those commercials you would see on Saturday mornings for sure. Kind of ruined with MMR and Bushwhackers and a couple guys, but it would have been nice to see like Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart on there instead, but it's a good commercial. And I feel like we're probably going to see that for other In Your House specials as well. The Sid interview, he definitely wants to kill Vince McMahon in real life. For sure. But yeah, again, the Lumberjacks, just I forgot some of these guys existed. Like, I'll be honest, like Mantar, Jean-Pierre Lafitte, like I just forgot these guys existed.
We found out tonight that he's still undefeated.
Yeah. How about that?
It just shows where we are in the WWF in 1995. Just take a look at these guys walking down the ramp here. Pretty bad. Sid pretty much just says he's the master and the ruler of the world now, and I'm kind of over it. I kind of want more out of Sid right now.
Yeah. Even if it takes him flubbing a bunch of lines, that's fine.
Yeah. When Sid first came in, he was with Shawn Michaels. I really, really liked it. And then they put him with Ted DiBiase, and it's like, what the fuck? Like, you don't have to do that. And it's kind of watered him down a little bit for me, unfortunately. Barry Horowitz. You guys refer to this as Barry Horowitz getting the victory. I referred to it as highlights of the burial of Skip.
No, it's Barry Horowitz's push. It doesn't necessarily mean that Skip's buried
6 feet under.
Yeah.
If you guys remember my Jobber of the Week segment on Barry Horowitz, this isn't going to be nearly the last match with Skip. Skip is going to lose a series of matches to Barry Horowitz.
Burying him even further. Oh, man. This was just the shovel. They just used the shovel this time. They're They're going to get the heavy digging equipment out here soon.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Giammatteo, the ray of shining light here in Wrasslin Raw.
This is when Sonny started looking at Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to her ditching that Body Donna's gear, though, at some point. Very soon, hopefully.
It's still going to be a while. Side note, Ryan, whenever they were showing Barry Horowitz in his victory, did or did not he make gestures and act the exact same way that Joe acts when Joe is drunk and wins something? Throwing the fists up in front of him and just, yes, and just kind of getting just a little bit light on his toes and kind of moving fast and yes.
It just doesn't happen often, much like Barry Horowitz.
Well, gentlemen, that truly amazing video of Barry Horowitz beating Skip, or burying Skip, I guess, will take us into our next match. Hunter Hearst Helmsly defeats Matt Hardy by pinfall in 3 minutes and 12 seconds. I loved seeing the fans there in the arena doing the hoity-toity clapping.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny. You can tell that even the people that are busting Hunter's balls are getting in on the gimmick. People are popping their asses off, both good and bad heat. This was good stuff. And back in the ring, this match is immediately fantastic. The work is flawless. The gimmick with Hunter Hearst Helmsly is flawless. And when I say that, I mean the little things. The way that he carries himself in the ring, the little gestures that he does, the way that he tips his nose up just ever so slightly. My goodness, I did not remember how just balls deep into this gimmick he was and how well he does it. It is amazing. But, of course, commentary is going to completely ignore the match here and talk about topical entertainment news. I, on the other hand, can't put over Hunter Hearst Helmsly enough. Once again, it needs repeated. This is a phenomenal match from a guy who earned every championship belt he ever fucking got. I mean, I was on the Hunter Hearst Helmsly train before, but now I'm blowing the fucking whistle. This is good shit, pal. Joe, please, what did you think of this match?
Well, you described it perfectly. I don't have much to add. What I think about is everybody that always talks about what a professional he is and always has been. And you can tell just by his work in the ring that he is just a professional wrestler that takes it very seriously. It's weird to see him and Matt Hardy in the ring in 95. Like it's weird. It's definitely good shit. And the commentary did not care, like you said. Did they mention that Jack Tunney is retiring?
Yes,
they did.
Or that he already did on the 4th of July.
So it's funny that they just throw that in there. I have a little bit about that in the news, but I thought it was funny that they just kind of threw it in there like it was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But Bartlett, like you always say, the most useless, what do you call him? The most useless man on TV?
The most useless name in television.
Yes. Yeah.
Right at the beginning of the match, Vince is asking, does Matt Hardy think maybe he could do the same that Barry Horowitz did and come up with a victory here? And, I got a good chuckle out of it because knowing where Matt Hardy will eventually go, and Vince is just kind of making fun of him for being a jobber and that there's no way he's actually going to ever win a match. It was a kick to see just how wrong Vince will be in such a short amount of time. Like you, Bartlett, seeing those kids in the crowd give the slow clap just puts a highlight under Hunter Hearst Helmsly and what a short amount of time he's been able to connect with the crowd. What an amazing job by him. And when they announced the Jack Tunney retirement, this is another point where I thought Jerry Lawler was back to the Jerry Lawler I love. He digs at how useless Jack Tunney is. And he even says, what was it? Oh, yes, that's big news. It ranks right up there with the All-Star game being tomorrow. Who cares? Way to point that out, Lawler. He's useless. But sadly, too many distractions. We have two future legends in the ring going at it, giving us a great match. And It's just kind of distracted by commentary, not caring at all. So that was a little disappointing. The last thing I will point out, though, is right towards the end, Matt Hardy does a leap up to the top rope and tries to do a backflip onto Hunter, but Hunter rolls out of the way, and because of that, he's able to then move into the pedigree and get the 1, 2, 3. But it really just was a great reminder of what we are going to see out of Matt Hardy later on in his career, because that was like a type of move you'd see out of him later on. So kind of a pattern that we have tonight, but another great jobber match.
Yeah, completely agreed. And I'm really glad that you ended on that, because I get so wrapped up in praising Hunter Hearst Helmsly and the gimmick that I completely forgot to note how great Matt Hardy was in this match. As you've said, former Jobber of the Week and future legend Matt Hardy, he did a fantastic job. You know, it's hard to quantify it in this context because he's going up against one of the greats and somebody who has a gimmick to work with in the ring and works it really well. I mean, Matt Hardy, at this point, he's not broken. He's not one half of the Hardy Boys. He's just a jobber, and he doesn't have anything other than his skills in the ring. And to be sure, those skills are good. They are great, as a matter of fact. But when stacked up against a great wrestler with a great gimmick, he didn't really stand a chance as far as my personal attention goes. But
he was the jobber, of course.
Yeah, yeah. But you know what, though? Isn't that a bit of a testament to how good of a jobber he was? Because he just kind of kept the match going and did his job and lost the match.
He put over the star.
Yeah. Yeah, he made it all about the superstar here, which is what we want from our enhancement talent.
Yeah, it's great to see the Hardys just in general, you know, come in here as teenagers and really work their way up. You know, we know what they became, and it's quite a story. It's weird, you know, they're not, I mean, they might be, we just don't know, but they're not like working their ass off in the indies and WCW or ECW, like.
From both of their segments, they are kind of in the indies too while doing this. Yeah. Down in North Carolina.
But, you know, getting this shot in 94, 95, and then just, you know, working their way up is pretty impressive.
Ryan, you said earlier about how Vince kind of just ignores the fact that he's got a future champion in the ring. I wonder if maybe Vince was thinking it'll be a damn miracle if Sabaw lets this kid live.
Well, I mean, if you remember, I believe right before the Hardy Boys get their contract in 98 and get to introduce, or late 97, 98, when they get to introduce themselves as the Hardy Boys, they kind of started talking to people backstage that this was happening, and that's when Gary Sabaw got fired. So I don't think a ton of people back there really knew the extortion ring that he was running with young wrestlers there.
Now, hold on. Hold on, Mr. Austin. Just hold on a second. You mean to tell me that you do not have a wrestling pimp pimping you out and taking a cut of your money?
Well, there's just no way you're going to survive in the business without one, so let me do you a favor and bring you into my stable.
Well, let me do you a favor and take you over to Todd Petting Zoo with an in-your-house report. Oh, that worked out perfectly. It goes without saying that Petting Zoo is an obnoxious shithead here. I won't dwell on it too much. This week, Sid introduced his Lumberjacks, and next week, Diesel will introduce his. Bated breath, I'm waiting here. Also, at In Your House, an Intercontinental Championship match between Double J and Shawn Michaels. I'm pretty sure all three of us are on record as looking forward to that. Todd then talks about how Double J is going to sing his hit With My Baby tonight in front of all of the music critics in Nashville. Everybody here is strongly indicating that Double J is going to put on a live performance at In Your House. I wonder if there's the potential for anything to go wrong with that.
Yeah, it's maybe some infamous WWF audio issues.
Yeah, perhaps. Let's also not forget about that tag title match. As much as I'm trying to forget it, the Allied Powers versus Owen Hart and Yokozuna for the Tag Team Championship belts. Also, another tag team, Razor Ramon and Savio Vega versus Men on a Mission. And if this tells you anything, it should tell you that the only true tag team here is Men on a Mission. and that things suck for tag teams right now. Even though they've got the smoking guns, it's going to be the Allied Powers. And the reason for Razor Ramon and Savio Vega being in this tag team, the reason for that is that savage beating that King Mabel put on Razor Ramon at the King of the Ring. I had honestly completely forgotten about it up until this point. We've also gotten confirmation of another match. Bam Bam Bigelow versus Henry O. Godwin. And we all remember what happened last week when Bammer encountered the Hog Farmer. Fucking Todd Pettingzoo calling him Bammer. This continues to fuel the rumors that Godwin has joined the $1 Million Corporation. But didn't we get that confirmed on Raw last week?
I would have thought so.
Yeah, Vince didn't exactly hint around it. This pay-per-view is going to be cheap, folks. I don't know what you might have heard, but this shit is cheap as hell. By the way, Shawn Michaels wants payback for stuff that happened. And it's going to take place next week on Monday Night Raw. Shawn Michaels versus IRS. Because that's just been a long, simmering blood feud there. Before we move on, Joe, what did you think about this week's In Your House 2 report?
I don't have anything noted. But now that I remember, what did he do that, I mean, he always does stuff that's annoying as hell, but what did he do to start?
Pardon me, but do you have any Grey
Yes.
Poupon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Horrible. And Razor Ramon getting dropped a little bit lower on the card here. Hopefully that doesn't last too long. Hopefully he gets back up at the top there.
Yeah, other than the disgust over the Grey Poupon comment, the only other thing I have commented is I believe last week we said that it looks like there are 2 matches at the In Your House that look to be entertaining. And, you know, now there's a third. Bam Bam versus Henry O. Godwin. Those are both big, strong, good wrestlers. So, you know, I'm kind of looking forward to as well. So I guess now we have 3. That's a plus. Shawn Michaels versus IRS. Yeah, that could be good. You know, IRS is not completely bottom barrel shit like Bundy. And Shawn Michaels was able to pull a decent match out of Bundy.
Oh.
So maybe Shawn Michaels versus IRS could be entertaining next week.
Well, hopefully Shawn watches his ass and doesn't get stuck in that devastating abdominal stretch.
That sweaty abdominal stretch.
It's a great way to kill 6 or 7 minutes. Yeah, this In Your House reports, get used to it, guys. We've said it before, but we got, 2 weeks off in between reports?
Yeah.
Past 2 weeks, we didn't have any of these reports, but now we're back into it again. All that being said, I don't really know how I feel about Bam Bam Bigelow versus Henry O. Godwin. That almost seems like it might be a bit too much of a brawler clash in the ring. I hope I'm wrong. I truly do. They are both great workers. I'm a little iffy on that one.
Iffy, but a hell of a lot more optimistic than some of the other matches.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joe, you're right. I mean, it does really, really suck that at this point, Razor Ramon is being used as a crutch to prop up King Mabel. So, no wonder he jumped ship later on here. Well, the Allied Powers. It's time for this now, guys. Are you ready? Our final match of the night. The Allied Powers, Lex Luger and the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, defeat Tatanka and Henry O. Godwin by pinfall in 5 minutes and 49 seconds. My first note, it hurts me to think of what could have been. I might have been able to get past the hog farmer gimmick. All it would have taken was I'm just a hog farmer, but I love to wrestle for fun. And I could have been fine with Henry Godwin as a solo wrestler after that. Neither heel nor babyface, somebody just in there to have a rip-roaring wrestling good time. But here we are. He is now part of the corporation. Have I mentioned before how much I dislike Lex Luger? Well, it's somewhat satisfying seeing Tatanka chop the shit out of him in the corner. That never gets old. Luger is just flopping all around here throughout his entire time in the match. He doesn't really spend hardly any time at all in control. I guess somebody must have had a talk with him about selling for his opponents and not doing the same 3 fucking moves over and over again. Because what we get is this match as a result. Finally, the Bulldog gets tagged in, and even then, I can't stand the way that Luger stands in the corner. He stands there just leaning on the ropes, and there's nothing good at all about what he's doing here. And what's shitty about that is that it's visible that he's trying to make changes. If we take this match and hold it up against our most recent Lex Luger match, where he was no-selling moves and trying to be a real hard-ass to try to get the crowd into him, this is the exact opposite. This is him trying to play the sympathy card throughout, and it does not work for me, brother. Finally, the Bulldog is able to put Tatanka into a power slam, a pin, and the 3 count. Ryan, what did you think of this match?
So, unfortunately, we're going to start off with Luger in the ring, and somehow he even can't sell stomping. You know, there's a point where he's on the ground and Tatanka's just stomping on him. And just all of Luger's motions, the way he reacts to it's delayed and rigid. And I don't understand how someone can't even sell being stomped while they're on the ground, but Luger figured a way to do it. You know, and Tatanka and Henry O. Godwin, they don't look too bad in the ring as they keep on going back and forth, tagging each other in as they take turns beating on Luger. But sadly, this match did not follow the pattern that the Allied powers have been doing up until this point to make a tolerable match. And that was keeping Lex Luger to extremely limited time in the ring and letting the British Bulldog basically do everything. But no, Lex Luger was in there for a huge portion of this match. And I'm sure everyone out there could guess how it went. You know, finally, at the end, the British Bulldog comes in and he looks good, fast. That power slam that he puts on at the end for the win was great looking. You know, so yeah, to finish it off, Tatanka and Henry Godwin, I think, did their job in this match, but there's nothing that they could really do when Lex Luger's could be in there and just bring it down into the basement. And that's what happened.
Yeah, and Vince is still telling us this story of Lex Luger and Tatanka. Like, he's just not giving up on this story. To me, there is no better example of a guy just there to collect a paycheck than Lex Luger at this point. It's crazy how this guy was, you know, given such a huge push just a year ago, and now it's just, man, this is where we are. Ryan, you mentioned, you know, it starts out with Luger and we get him for a while, and really that's like every Allied Powers match we see. It's like, let's get Lex in there and let Davey Boy get the hot tag, you know, which works for the crowd because it's like, I think they're cheering because they like Davey Boy, but they're cheering because Luger's out of the ring.
Get him out. Get him out.
One thing I liked about this, I don't know why, but Mike Chioda is the referee here, and I don't know why, but I really liked how he was raising the arms and kind of leading them back through the curtain. For some reason, I liked that. It was just a little bit different, I think, and I enjoyed that. But yeah, I mean, it's the tag team division is just not good.
Yeah, agreed on all points, gentlemen. This is just horrific. And, you know, it makes me wonder if, and like I mentioned before about how, you know, Luger was trying to, it seemed to me at least that he was trying to play up the sympathy card, take a beating in the ring, and then go for the hot tag with the Bulldog. It almost makes me wonder if everybody cheered simply to get Luger just the hell out of the ring, as in, finally, it's over. We can get to some real wrestling now. Just despicable. Absolutely despicable. Nothing good about Lex Luger at all.
The WWF owed 3 wrestlers an apology after this match.
Yes. And, you know, we've said what we think about the Bulldog and what we think about Godwin, but I gotta say, Tatanka has been slowly creeping up in my appreciation the past few times we've seen him.
Tatanka's not great on the mic, and he's not great in doing storytelling, but he is not bad in the ring.
Serviceable.
Yeah. He's serviceable.
Yeah, completely agreed. And, Joe, you mentioned that Vince is still talking about Luger and Tatanka. That's only right and good that we should all remember and revere the single greatest heel turn in the history of professional wrestling. So I can't fault anybody for that.
That's true.
Well, after this match, the American Dental Association would certainly not recommend the tactics of Dr. Isaac Yankem.
I don't know how anybody could actually read that seriously.
Back at ringside, we find out that the tag champs will be in action next week. Also next week, Diesel's going to give us an interview, and Jean-Pierre Lafitte will be in action. Shawn Michaels will also take on IRS. But now, let's go back to the office of Isaac Yankem, DDS. I bitch about gimmicks, but this was fantastic. I don't know what it is exactly, but the theatrics here are just really, really entertaining. This almost made me want to vomit, because anybody that knows me knows that I have a bit of a thing with mouths, and that's why, the whole foot and mouth thing kind of grossed me out so much. And, I don't have a phobia of the dentist, but for example, whenever my kids have, their teeth get loose, they like to try to make me throw up by wiggling the loose teeth in my face. So this kind of creeped me out, but in a good way, because they didn't actually show a mouth. What they did show was Dr. Isaac Yankem with his curly, bright, bleached blonde Jerry curl mullet, shoving a spinning drill into some woman's mouth and going, "Open wide," over and over again for different things. Just phenomenal. This was a phenomenal little video package or promo or whatever you want to call it, but it was great. Ryan, what did you think about this week's visit to Yankem and the way that Raw ended?
I absolutely agree. It was just fantastic. The way they had him just towering over the chair at the beginning, and like when they first started off, I was laughing when he was putting on his rubber gloves, because he was doing it exactly how Kane will later, with the wiggling of the hand. And so that was pretty great to see that. And just what he was saying, like you said, when open up the mouth. And then when he grabbed the little suction thing, let me suck that out of there. It was great. And then at the end, when we find out that the person in the chair, one of their favorite wrestlers, is Bret Hart, just how he immediately just starts really drilling into the mouth. Great vignette. And Isaac Yankem just looks like a fucking beast there. He's enormous. I loved it.
Yeah, I think the fact that he is who he is the reason why we enjoy it. I guess if it's like Mantar, let's say Mantar was Isaac Yankem, I'm not sure it would work for me, brother. But Glenn Jacobs, he's this tall, jacked up dude. I mean, it fits this type of a cartoon character. I mean, we have a pirate next week. We had this show with a dentist. I mean, man, crazy times here.
Now that you mention that, if we were to remove the hooves and horns from Mantar and put him in a dentist type gimmick, that immediately makes me think of the mid-90s weird-ass movie Dr. Giggles. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That it just strikes me that the guy that is Mantar could possibly pull off like a creepy Dr. Giggles type
gimmick, it's like,
maybe.
It's cartoony, but Glenn Jacobs is like big and jacked. So it's like,
yes.
It's a little less cartoony and more like an evil comic book guy type of thing.
Plus, I mean, what evil dentist do you know that does not wear a sleeveless smock?
Right.
And stand at 7 foot tall, 330 pounds.
Open wide. And that's it. That's the end of this week's Raw. Let's take it on over to highlights and lowlights. Joe, why don't you go first?
My highlight is Rip Taylor. Low light, I guess I'll go with the Sid interview. this is our main event going into In Your House, and this Sid interview just it didn't do much to get us excited for that. So I thought this was a good episode overall. So it's not an easy decision, but that's my low light.
Yeah, I agree on that. This was a pretty good Raw overall. And as far as my highlight, it was kind of hard to pick. There was a lot of good things in this Raw to pick from. There were good segments, good vignettes, great matches. But for me, there was only one thing I really could go with, and it was the Barry Horowitz win.
Oh.
Yeah, there's just no other way. I mean, that was my highlight. You know, it's a shame we couldn't see the entire match here on Raw, but sorry, I just could go with nothing else other than Barry Horowitz. Low light, you know, again, not easy because there was a lot of great stuff here, but I'm going to go with Allied Powers versus Tatanka Henry O. Godwin. As usual, it's really no one else's fault but Lex. but he's why it's my low light. He's just so bad that he makes any match that he's in bad. So, low light.
Yeah, I agree also. This was a very good episode of Raw, and it's kind of hard to pick things out as far as, isolating one thing above others. You know, if we had seen the entire Barry Horowitz match, I would probably give that my highlight. But as it stands, we only got snippets and it was on Action Zone. So in good conscience, I cannot give that the highlight. I can give that my my honorable mention for the evening.
I couldn't contain myself with the gushing, you know.
I know. You coming day and night. But I am pretty secure in my highlight, and that being the the Hunter Hearst Helmsly Matt Hardy match. Excellent match. That's what had me coming day and night.
Understandable.
Yeah, I mean, it's self-evident to me, just the way that Hunter was carrying himself in the ring. If I didn't make it clear enough earlier. Panty puddle over here for old Triple H in that match. But low light, little harder because there's not a whole lot going on that is a low light here. The obvious answer is Lex Luger, and I tend towards that. But Joe, I think I'm going to have to agree with you on this one. Sid's little, not even 10-second promo in the ring just fell so goddamn flat, especially after at the very beginning where it is teased to us that Sid doesn't care about lumberjacks and we'll find out later, only to get to Sid and have him say 2 sentences or 3 sentences, basically repeating that he's the master of the world and just everything. And, you know, you can see in his eyes, whenever he's not staring straight death at Vince McMahon, whenever he turns and looks at the camera, if you stare into his eyes hard enough, you can just faintly hear in the background the sound of a aluminum bat hitting a softball. He's pining for the diamond already. I can tell. All right. That being said, Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around July 10th, 1995 for us?
Yes, we mentioned Jack Tunney earlier in our show, and the Observer notes that Jack Tunney reportedly resigned from WWF, at least in storyline. So I'm wondering if we're getting something else or if maybe they just reported resigned instead of retired. But the real story is reported to be that Jack Tunney was part of a major house cleaning of the WWF front office last week. So the word from the Observer is that Jack Tunney was just shit-canned, basically. So, yeah, no more Jack Tunney kind of leads us to wonder, okay, well, who's going to be that, president type role? And it's being speculated that Shane Douglas, his initial role with the promotion would have been to be a heel commissioner, but he has not signed yet, so that's all just rumor. So we're seeing now that Henry O. Godwin is part of the corporation, and he's getting a little bit of a push here. The reason for that, according to the Observer, is that he is taking King Kong Bundy's spot. Bundy is still with the company. However, he has missed some TV tapings due to pneumonia, and it appears as though he is being phased out. So just imagine anytime we want to complain about what's happening with Henry O. Godwin, it could be King Kong Bundy instead.
Well, I mean, I guess exactly like we said last week when we saw him replace Bundy in the tag match, we were like, well, that significantly increases the quality of that match.
Yeah.
Yes. Another guy that we could possibly see phased down from the top is Sid. It's being reported that Mabel is going to be given the shot at being the top heel. So that's something to really look forward to, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Again, we have a theme here. Another superstar being phased out is Hakushi.
Oh. Now that's one that's disappointing.
Yeah.
This is reported because originally his run with Bret Hart was supposed to last into the fall, but it appears to have been dropped because Bret Hart will be entering a feud with Isaac Yankem. So you guys need to prepare for this sentence that I'm about to read here.
Dr. Death.
Hakushi was even doing jobs for Adam Bomb on house shows.
Fuck me.
Oh, my God.
It's over.
Did Hakushi sue?
I don't know. We'll hear that later.
I hope so. He deserves it.
My goodness.
A little bit of SummerSlam news, which is in August. The only match booked for that is Undertaker and Kama as of right now.
Okay.
And the show will take place in our hometown area of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Nice.
And there have been 8,000 tickets sold already at $200,000 reportedly. So that's pretty good.
You'll be in the Civic Arena?
Civic Arena.
Nice.
So that's about half the arena sold already.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And that is all.
All right, Joseph, thank you for that. That was illuminating as always. Just for the record here, listeners, you may have noticed that our episode is a teensy bit shorter than it usually is. That's because there was not really a whole lot of wrestling going on in this episode. We talked about it ahead of time, and it's just kind of weird that not weird, but it's unusual that there is so much video material in this episode as opposed to wrestling going on, so we can only work with what they give us.
But surprisingly, still really entertaining. That
Yes.
That's not a real dig against this episode, and almost a tip of the hat to the writing of this episode, because it was still very entertaining.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. This was one of the better. I would maybe say that this is probably the best Danville episode we've had so far.
I could say with that, and I would say it's up there in the top, 5 of Raws we've seen so far.
Yeah. Well, that's it, folks. We're done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us, and if you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can find us on every major social media and podcast subscription platform by searching up the handle Wrasslin Raw. That's WRASSLINRAW. While you're there, don't forget to click subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know about the fastest growing wrestling podcast in the world. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on July 17th, 1995, with matches featuring Gus Kantorakis, Billy Mack, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.